Okay, I want to give a quick tutorial on how to save time and not have to input or type in your student information every time you want to vision screen a student. And the way to do that is to import your student roster into EyeSpy 2020 and then subsequently selecting your students from a list that is available on all your computers running EyeSpy, regardless of which computer was used to upload the student roster. So the first thing I want to do is I want to press this button that says Select Student from List from the main screen of EyeSpy 2020. By the way, I want to point out that when you launch EyeSpy 2020, in order to do this operation, you do need to be connected to the internet. So select Student from List. And if you notice, I don't have any preloaded students. And the question is, how do I import student information? So I click on this button and instructions pop up on the screen. I recommend printing them out. So press the print button and you should get a dialog box that pops up on the screen that says print for your default printer, and just press that print button, and that way you can reference this document throughout the process that we're going to discuss. Once you have it printed, press the quit button, and what I've done is I've printed them over here, so we're going to reference that document now, and I won't read it to you, but suffice it to say that you want your information technology department to really be involved in this process. So the goal, or in order to upload your roster, you need to generate a file using a very specific format, and I'm going to take you through that process right now. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to get out of this list, and I'm going to minimize EyeSpy 2020. So if you notice, I already have Excel, Microsoft Excel running and minimized into the taskbar. And this is a file that was provided to me and would be provided to you by your IT department. Now, this file may be tab delimited, it could be a comma separated value file, it could be some format that is other than what I'm showing here. But you're going to want to ask your IT department to provide you a file that can be read by Microsoft Excel. The information, in order to open this file in Microsoft Excel, you're going to notice that I'm just clicking and dragging this file into Microsoft Excel. It opens up, and then I release the button, and then this is all the information about the students that was provided to me by my IT department. A couple things I want to point out. Right now, I don't know what these field names are. I know what they are, but they need to be labeled in Microsoft Excel for EyeSpy in order to interpret the fields properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to insert a row, because as per the instructions here, I need to label. If you read down through these instructions, it will tell you exactly what the field headers need to be for each field. Now, they don't need to be in this order, but they do need to be provided over the appropriate columns. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here to my Excel spreadsheet, and this one is I'm sorry, I have that wrong. It's the first name, followed by the last name, followed by the date of birth. This is ethnicity or race. This is gender, grade, teacher, and an optional field is student ID. So you're going to want to make sure that you have a header row. Row 1 needs to be the field names so that when we create the file for EyeSpy, it can look and know which column is which. And again, if we go back to the instructions here, it will tell you that these are the 8 fields that need to be included. Now, please understand that student ID is optional. In other words, this field right here is an optional field. I'm including it for purposes of this demonstration. Teacher can be either one word or multiple words, depending on if you're just using their last name or their full name. ID can be numbers. It can be a combination of alphanumeric characters, including dashes. Gender is obviously male or female. Grade is pre-K, K, 1 through 12. Race, if you want to, and by the way, race, even when we're talking about ethnicity, the proper heading for that column is race, as I'm showing here. And if you're looking for what the acceptable race classification or ethnicity classifications are, as per EyeSpy, it is one of these 8 choices. I put not indicated or no answer provided in our example over here. Date of birth, we're going to come back and talk about that because that's the one field that requires some manipulation. First name, last name. So let's go back to the instructions. Okay, so we've got first name, last name, date of birth. So everything is labeled properly. Race, gender, grade, teacher, right? Race, right here. Race, grade, gender, grade, teacher, and ID. So now everything is labeled properly. I just want to go back, and as I read through the instructions, see, it's telling me how to label. It's showing me examples that things do not need to be in any particular order. But here's where they talk about manipulating or formatting the date of birth column. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to follow the instructions just as it says here. We're going to select the entire date of birth column, and we're going to select format cells. And I got to that point by hitting right-clicking. Let me put this in the middle of the screen. And I'm going to select custom. And right here, I'm going to type in exactly what I want as per the instructions, which is month, month, day, day, year, year, year. So if you follow the instructions, this is exactly what it tells you to do, and then just hit OK. And if you notice, when I did that, now the months that are single digit are 0 filled. And that is why we have to go through that process. So going back to our instructions, now that we have followed that instruction for formatting, now it's time. I'm going to go past all of this. And now it's time to save the file as an Excel spreadsheet so that if we need to access this at a later point in time, we can. So the first thing I'm going to do, so I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to hit Save As, and I want to make sure that it's saved as an Excel workbook. And I'm just going to call this Student Roster Excel, so that I know that I can come back at any point in time. And by the way, I'm saving this to my desktop. That way I can come back and I can manipulate this file. If for some reason the file that I create doesn't work, I will have access to the Excel file. Okay. And by the way, you can see these are just fake names that I put in here. So now again, following the instructions It says select file from the top menu, select save as. You can read all this, but what we're going to do is we're going to be saving this as a tab delimited file. Okay, so I want to show you what it looks like. Again, you can follow these instructions, but hopefully this video will help. So the idea here is that, again, we're going to go save as, except I don't have anything here that says tab delimited. So I go to other formats. When I go to other formats, again, putting this in the middle of the screen, making sure I'm saving it right to my desktop, I want to go down here and I want to select tab delimited. So if you can see that, tab delimited is what I'm going to select. And now, again, saving it to my desktop, that's critical. I'm going to type in student data. So let me just go back here and show you that that is what the instructions tell me to do. Tab delimited student data. Now I'm going to hit save. And here's what's interesting. Microsoft Excel says, look, there are some features that are not compatible, like formatting features and fonts and colors and all of that stuff, and it wants to make sure that you know that you're going to lose those features. So you're going to press yes. Okay. What that's going to do is save now a text file to your desktop. And I'm going to show you what that file looks like. So here's student data. And lo and behold, this is the format of the file. But you'll notice now that the date of birth is formatted properly. And now there's a header row at the very top. If we compare that to the original file, you'll see that it wasn't formatted quite the same. The date of birth isn't formatted properly. And we don't know which column is which. So I'm going to close these down. And I'm also going to shut down Microsoft Excel. That's very important. I am not going to save the changes at that point. So I've now quit Microsoft Excel. And like I said, if I needed to get back into the Excel file, I could do that here. The name of that file is Student Roster Excel. These files that we manipulated, the file that I received from my IT department in the student roster that I saved as an Excel spreadsheet. You can name those whatever you want. What you must name properly is this file called student data. Student data is now located on my desktop. It's formatted properly. Excel is closed. Going back to my instructions, it's now going to tell me how to proceed. So if you follow the process that's been shown, now what happens is when we go into EyeSpy and we select student from list, notice we don't have any preloaded students. We still don't. But notice that this button now says import studentdata.txt file. So EyeSpy has detected the presence of the data file that you just created, and now it knows that there's the option to import it. So I'm going to press that button. It's going to import it, and here are all the students that I just uploaded into the roster. Now, if I press that button again, let me just show you what happens. There is no duplicated information. However, if for some reason I notice that there are incorrect entries, or let's say when you select your school, and by the way, one of the things that I should point out is that you need to make sure you're importing rosters on a per school basis. So if you're a school district, you're going to have a button here that says select or change school. So when you are importing your student rosters, you're doing it on a per school basis, and you're going to want to make certain that you are importing students for the correct school. So when I go here, let's say that I incorrectly imported these students into this particular school. You can hit delete all students. This is going to ask you to verify that you wish to delete all the students. I will then create the correct file for importing, and then I will import the correct file, and now these students are associated with this school. So now what happens is, even on other computers where EyeSpy is running, again, they need a connection to the internet to select those students from this preloaded list. Once the list has been accessed by the computer, you do not need a connection to the internet at that point in time. So then, once the roster has been read in to that particular laptop or whatever the case might be, typically laptop computers, then when the computer is taken into the environment where they do not have access to the internet, that school is automatically brought up by default, and these students are already available. You just don't have an opportunity to update the list, which would happen if the roster had changed and the IT department or the person responsible had uploaded subsequent students since you last accessed that list and updated it through the internet. So now when I go to Vision Screen, I identify my child. I can sort and filter this list appropriately. So I could say, okay, I want to find Davidson. So I start to type in, and now it's filtered down. Now I just double click on the student that I want, and their information is pre-populated. So now all I have to do is put in my proctor name, and you only have to type that once per session. And for every single child, you have to inquire and determine whether or not they've got prescription glasses. As you know, we ascertain and report on the vision screening report that's produced whether or not the child is wearing prescription glasses. And you'd click that button. If they don't have any, you would click none. If they forgot them at home or lost or broken their glasses, you would press the appropriate button, and that is it. And you begin screening just as you would normally. So that is the process. And by the way, when you return to this screen, if you have filtered this list in such a way that precludes you from finding the appropriate student, just clear the search, and now all of the students will appear. As you vision screen students on this list, they will automatically be purged off of the list, again, on all of the computers. So this essentially provides you a list of students that remain to be vision screened, because again, this list will dwindle over time as you vision screen students. I'm going to exit this list. I'm going to minimize EyeSpy. I'm going to throw out the student data list that I created for purposes of this tutorial. I'm going to go back into EyeSpy just to show you that if I go to select student from list, it now knows that that file is not there. So if I click this button, once again, it's going to show me the instructions that we just went through. And all of this information that was provided on this video, the instructions on how to update or import your student roster, can be found on that document that you print when you're in EyeSpy and you click on how to import student info. So I hope that this was helpful. I know it's a long video with a lot of detail, but I did want you to have access, because we typically don't provide technical support on this particular part of the EyeSpy 2020 program. So this video is really intended to walk you through the process step by step. Of course, if you do need help, we want to make sure that you do have the ability to import your student roster. Work with your IT department to have them provide you this file, which is typically exported from their student information software system, which could be HealthMaster, Synergy, ChipAZ. There's a ton of them out there, but let them know, provide your IT department this document, and that way they will understand exactly what fields you need to collect. If you do not collect student ethnicity, there still needs to be a column designated as race, and then you would just put in the words "no answer provided" for every child. And remember that student ID is an optional field. If you do not include that field, in other words, if you only have 7 columns of data rather than 8, the importing algorithm will still work. It does not require a student ID field. So that's it. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for watching.